I don't think there's any time other than last year where the world and the word needed resilience, excuse me. I don't think there's been any time in our life where we have needed to understand how to be resilient in the face of tremendous obstacles, not just here in the States, not just us as leaders, but around the world. But here's the thing. We need a plan. We need a plan to understand what resilience is and how do we overcome it and how do we deal with it. And we're going to talk about that here in a second with our guest, Michael K. Jackson. But first, this message. Hello, everybody. I'm Steve Worthy, and I am CEO of Worthy Retail U. I am also host of Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy, the podcast audio version, and also the live stream that you hear tonight. We focus in on helping retail leaders understand how to communicate better, how to advance their career, but most importantly, how to understand and how they fit in within their culture, within their organization. Tonight, we have a very, very special guest, and we are going to be talking about resilience. He is an international keynote speaker. His name is Michael K. Jackson, and we're going to talk to him in a second. Just before that, I want to talk a little bit about some upcoming events that we have. So, of course, tonight, we actually have Michael K. Jackson, and we're going to be talking about what's your plan. He's going to outline his process, his keynote speech around his plan that helps other people understand how to deal with and how to leverage resilience in their life. Next week, we actually have Tawana Taylor, and that's going to be next week on Wednesday the 25th at 7 p.m. And we are going to talk about the art of getting things done. So I'm actually super excited to talk to her as well. Some previous podcast events we had just Wednesday night, we had Anita Galliano, and we talked a little bit about the lessons learned from being an intern to being a professional. That was an exciting opportunity, exciting time. Lots of great feedback on that from that podcast event. So you can go to any one of our platforms, YouTube, LinkedIn, our Facebook group, and you can actually go ahead and actually take a look at that video as well. And then, of course, prior to that, we had Mr. Perry Rue, and we talked about the power of executive coaching. And my man from across the pond, Mr. Paul Norfor, we learned how to fail, and fail meaning the first attempt in learning. That was an exciting time. I love Paul. He has such a great platform on YouTube. He's a former broadcaster, still does that, but he also has started doing some amazing content creation. So please make sure you go ahead and check out his page as well on YouTube, Mr. Paul Norfor from London. And then, of course, Mr. Robert Reed, who inspires you, was our topic that we talked about. Robert has one of the best names for a podcast ever in history, and it's called Never Call Me Again. And I just love that. I just love the name of that podcast. But he also has a YouTube channel called Spoke Audio. He is a former military veteran as well. But we talked about inspiration and really talked a little bit about the definition of inspiration and how does that fit into your life as a leader. And of course, we do our community takeover every Friday. So Michael K. Jackson, he took over the community tonight because we had to reschedule. So I'm super stoked to have him tonight. But we will continue with our community takeovers every Friday, where we talk to different members within the community and have different conversations around where they are within their professional career and how we can potentially help them as a community, not just myself, but as a community. That's why it's called Community Takeover. And this one's a little meta, right? This one's a little meta, kind of seeing myself right next to myself. That's kind of funny. We are going to be doing a lunch and learn starting in September 1st on LinkedIn. So that is going to be between 11 and 12 o'clock More information to come, but I'm excited about that, where we are going to kind of drill down into retail leaders, their experiences and different things that they actually have going on and how they can help other people within the community understand how they need to focus in on their leadership roles as well. So if you're looking at this on YouTube, please go and hit that subscribe button, also that bell, so that way you know all the different things that we have going on. Pretty excited. And LinkedIn, if you want to be part of our community, we are at Worthy Retail U. You can go to LinkedIn, do a search for us. You can go ahead and ask to be invited. We talk specifically about really solid leadership ideas, and we focus in on our gym approach. And I'll talk about that in another episode. If you're interested in learning more, you can connect with me at worthyretailu.com/now for that. And then, of course, if you're on Facebook, go ahead and hit that like button as well. We appreciate any measure of engagement that you guys can have for us tonight. Speaking of engagement, if you have a question, if you have a thought, a comment, I please ask that you go ahead and submit it for us tonight, because we're going to have a really good dialogue tonight with our guest, Mr. Michael K. Jackson. Not Michael Jackson, Michael K. Jackson. I met Mike I can call him Mike. You guys got to call him Michael. I met him last year. I'm telling you what, the pandemic, there's a lot of things that happened last year, but it caused us to pause and slow down a little bit and really start to think a little bit more. And the topic of resilience was on top of my mind. And I found this gentleman who was focused in on resilience, focused in on helping people overcome and understand what it means to be resilient. It's often a term that we kind of throw around loosely, but we are not going to be doing that tonight. We're going to have a really in-depth conversation tonight with our guest, Mr. Michael K. Jackson. So please give a round of applause for Michael K. Jackson. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, brother Steve. How you doing, man?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Hey, tell everybody a little about yourself.
So, hello everyone. Thank you for joining, and to the folks in the community, man. We sorry we didn't get to do the takeover tonight, but we taking over in another sense anyway. So, a little bit about me for the folks that don't know me. I'll start with that I was born and raised in the Caribbean. I'm a proud Caribbean American, um, and a proud Air Force veteran as well.
Whoop,
But
whoop.
the
That's right.
That's right. That's right. But the thing I'm most proud of is my family. I'm married and have four, not one, not two, not three, but four girls. So I'm a girl dad. So pray for me, y'all. Pray for me. I need it. Okay. but in addition to my roles as my role as dad, I am the founder and CEO of Michael K. Jackson International, a professional speaking and resilience training company. And we'll get into how that got started and what it's all about. But that's me in short.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have a couple people who've already kind of joined us. Speak of the gentleman, Mr. Spoke Audio. Great topic. He's going for us tonight. So thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Um, you have something to say. I'm quite sure you'll have something to say, Robert, about some of the things that we discussed tonight. It should be pretty cool. Hey, how you doing, Walter? Thank you so much for being here. Hey, Steve, listening in this evening. Thank you so much, man. And then also Laura. How are you doing, Laura? Excellent. Hello, Steve Worthy. Well, thank you. Just call me by my full name, but that's okay, Laura. My government name. That's all right. I appreciate that. So, man, um, well, I think a couple of things that we've always resonated on. One, of course, the fact that we are both girl dads, and I
Absolutely.
think we both realized the toll it took on our hair. I think we both previously had afros, and then we had the girls, and now we're rocking similar hairdos, but
Yeah, I'm sure there was a high top fade in the middle of that somewhere.
yeah, it was something like that. It was something like that, man. But can you tell everybody a little bit about your story and about the resilience, right? Because I know the story, and it's such a moving story. But the idea of what you have gone through, and how out of all of everything that you have gone through, you've been able to take something out of that, and more importantly, work through it yourself, but then also give it away and give parts of yourself away, because as a leader, that's what we do, right? We give some of ourselves of ourself away so that we can help other people become
Yeah.
restored. So tell everybody just a little bit about this, that your road to resilience and why it's such an important topic for you.
Sure. Well, I reached an inflection point in September of 2017, so almost 4 years ago now. I mentioned at the top that I born and raised in the Caribbean. I was actually raised in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, and some of you might remember 2017 hurricane season. It was a rough one, and the U.S. Virgin Islands got slammed by not one but two Category 5 hurricanes. Long story short, um, I lost my dad in the middle of the second hurricane. Irma hit first, September 6th, September 20th. Uh, Maria hit, did a lot of damage to the island, and obviously did a lot of damage to my family because I got a fateful phone call that my dad, we lost my dad in the midst of Hurricane Maria. And I say that was an inflection point because really a lot of things came together at that point. Um, After getting over the shock, well, not really getting over the shock, but after dealing with the initial shock, what I decided to do was coordinate a hurricane relief effort through my church here in Maryland to go down, send volunteers down to help rebuild the islands, because all three of the U.S. Virgin Islands. And it was during that process of helping rebuild my island, helping people rebuild their homes and rebuild their lives, I reflected back on all the stuff, the adversity that I had been through prior to that point, and started thinking about how I dealt with that stuff so that I can help myself deal with, the death of my father. And it didn't all come at once, but thus was born this plan resilience building blueprint that we're going to get into tonight. And it's really about, you know, back in 2017, there was a saying going around um, about building back stronger. And that
Mm,
might sound familiar to you now because a certain political campaign done took that over. But back then, it was really about that slogan was really about helping people, um, helping the islands rebuild physical infrastructure stronger to withstand future Category 5 storms, and higher. Now, I took that and started thinking about that, and I said, well, I want to help people rebuild their emotional
mm,
infrastructure,
mm,
right?
mm.
Thus, Plan was born.
Emotional infrastructure. Emo- Hold up for a sec, man.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
okay. We got I got these questions and stuff like that, and I think you know how you and I go, right?
Yes,
Um,
sir.
Walk me through that context of emotional infrastructure, because that is something, I think, I don't know, it was you and I were talking about pretty maybe last year sometime, but I was talking about like compassion, these ideas, all of these kind of soft ideas, if you people think about, but they don't
Mhm.
think about it in context of leadership. And
Mhm.
so what you just spoke about, can you talk a little bit more about that, and what does that mean for the leader for today, and how can they actually tap into that so that they can become, one, a better person, husband, father, but then also a better
Mhm.
leader as well.
Sure, sure. Well, just to define resilience, it's really in your inborn capacity to deal with adversity. You
Mm,
know, a textbook definition would be the ability to adapt well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy,
hmm
threats, and significant sources of stress. Textbook American Psychological Association definition, but quite simply, It's just your inborn capacity to deal with adversity, deal with stress, and not only deal with it or cope with it, but actually thrive in the face of that.
Yeah. And I
And that's
think,
what P.L.A.N
go
is
ahead. I'm
all about.
sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And I was going to say that's what P.L.A.N is all about.
Yeah. Oh man. So okay, we're gonna get to plan here in a second. I'm gonna say that. We'll say that for a little bit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The challenges that a leader has had to face this year have probably been, I don't know, I won't say, I think I do a disservice to everything else that's happened throughout history if I say, oh my gosh, this has been like one of the worst years, if you will. There have been other things and other decades and other years and other centuries where worse things have happened. Having said that, there has been a massive amount of challenges that leaders have had to face this year, where the idea of resiliency has actually had to come into play. What
Hmm.
has been some of the things that you have spoken to people about and helped people with through this year? Because I can imagine that you've probably had more leaders knocking on your door asking for advice, asking for a perspective this year than probably almost any other year that you've probably been around.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, yeah. So what's been my advice to them,
Yeah.
Steve?
Yes.
Yeah, it's really the in its most simplistic form, it's really about your mindset.
Mm,
It's really about your mindset. A quick story. In a earlier time in my life, oh, actually, my first business was a health and fitness center that I ran, and I'm always been passionate about health, fitness, particularly physical fitness. Um, but what this whole process and going through the loss of my dad and so forth and starting this business has revealed is that it's equally important to be mentally fit, emotionally fit as well. Leaders have been coming to me asking about really how to deal with, because it's one thing to deal with um, a sudden tragedy like a
yeah.
a loss, right?
Yes.
And many of us have stories of loss over this past 18 months with COVID. But what about, Steve, the everyday, the day in, the day out? I speak a lot about dealing with, self-doubt, right?
Mm,
Dealing with worry, dealing with, anxiety, anxious thoughts. Uh, that kind of stuff wears on you like water on rocks.
mm,
You know,
mm.
that's what they've been coming to me, asking me about too, because you know we've been dealing with a lot. You mentioned it earlier in that, you were kind of leading, saying, well, it's not that we've never dealt with tough times before, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
But yes, because there's been pandemics before, our global pandemics before, and so forth.
mm-hmm.
But I will say that um, probably not many of us were around in 1918. You know what I mean? For that
I
first
thought you
pandemic.
were. I know you look
I
good
know
for
I
your
look, I know I
age.
got a little
You
brain.
look
I know
good for
them
your age, man.
girls, them girls age me, Steve. Them girls age me. but the point is, none of us were around then in terms of that pandemic, so we don't have a
True.
context for it. So it feels new to us, right?
True.
So I'll say that. But yeah, it's dealing with the constant barrage of anxieties and worries and doubts, man.
Yeah,
And that's
man.
that's on top, because we generally we deal with that stuff outside of a pandemic. So
Yeah.
layer onto that, midst of a pandemic, prayerfully the tail end of one,
Hmm.
plus racial injustice, social unrest. Yeah, it weighs. So that's the kind of stuff they've been asking me about.
Yeah. Let's go into that one real quick around the, you know, the diversity and aspect of
Hmm.
resilience, right?
Hmm.
Because I think it's apropos to the audience, but I also think it's apropos to. Here's the thing: it's not just apropos to the audience who are black, but it's also apropos to the audience who aren't black, because I
Hmm.
think it's an important topic that everybody needs to understand and be able to actually even have some measure of a conversation about, um, as as we continue to heal and kind of and move forward.
Mhm.
You know, one of the things that I think you and I think we have talked about a little bit around, what happened last year and how it kind of impacted, us kind of individually as black men. you know how what would you say to some leaders who are still kind of struggling with, um, overcoming the idea of, the racial injustice, things that are still taking place in our economy, all these different
Mhm.
things that are weighing, and these are things external that are outside just being a normal leader that you
Mhm.
actually have to deal with as well.
Mhm. Mhm. What would I say? What would I say to them? To how to deal?
Yes.
Man, it's complicated.
Yeah,
Steve.
I
It's
know. I know.
because I mean, I don't claim to have a magic wand or all the answers in the least. I can tell you, and we're still, and me personally, I'm still, some of this stuff, a lot of stuff I'm still walking through
Mm,
myself, as I'm sure you are, right? We
yeah.
all are. But I think a big part of it, I say again, foundation
Mm,
is mindset, right? Mindset in terms of how are you viewing the situation? What's your perspective on the situation? And that applies to these macro level issues, as well as what you're dealing on a micro level as well. I know, for me, it's been particularly tough, as I'm sure you can speak to this in some of
mm,
our viewers, in terms of for us, as people of color, specifically as black men. I would argue that it's it's been all the more difficult for us to maintain our sanity, much less talk about growing through it, right?
yeah. Yeah.
But I would say first you start, and this is kind of leading. I'm holding plan,
Yeah.
but
Oh, we about to jump into it in a sec.
I'm holding it, but because the elements in that really go to how you cope, how you build your resilience, and how you ultimately flourish. But foundationally, mindset, how you view in a situation versus instead of the limiting mindset, instead of the fixed mindset, having that growth mindset. I know you talk about growth
Mm,
a lot, Steve. So
amen.
yeah.
Amen. And Walter says, Stephen Michael, that is the word for 2022, helping people build their emotional structure back stronger. That's right, man. That's it.
Because I will say this, resilience. Oftentimes, people refer to resilience as bouncing back, but the
Yes.
whole thing about this piece about getting to thriving and flourishing is that building back stronger piece, right? So it's not just about building that structure back to the condition it was. We're not going back to the status quo ante. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yes.
We're building back stronger.
Yeah. And I think, because I think the bouncing back is almost the idea that everything is going to be normal again, that
Yeah.
we're going to be going back to, I was like, oh my gosh, I just want things to be normal again. And I don't think they're, and I am, I don't want them to be normal again, honestly. And I don't think they will be. And two, I don't want them to be. I want people to have changed, mentally, emotionally throughout all this, throughout this entire process. And if they haven't, then that's an issue in and of itself. So,
Absolutely.
man, okay. So one of the things that I often say is that every leader is on a journey, but for them to be successful, they have to be an active participant in that journey. And part of
Mhm.
that journey is that they have to have a plan. They have
Mhm.
to have something structured, a structured, document strategy for them to be successful in and of itself. So let's go ahead and walk through your plan, for everybody. And everybody, if you have a question after each point that we talk about during it, please make sure you ask a question, leave a comment or something like that as well, and we will make sure that we address it as well. So Michael, walk us through your plan.
Yep, yep. So, as I say, that this plan is a four-step, what I call a hurricane-proof process
I
that
love
will
that. I
help you,
love that. I love
pun
that.
intended, pun intended,
Yes.
that that will, empower and equip you to actually build back stronger, right? So, the first step corresponds to the letter P, and that's P for practice, prayer, and meditation. L for lean in and listen for the lesson. A for act accordingly, and N for notate your mind state. And we can delve into each one as we go, Steve. But I wanted to give a high level of each of what each one meant or means.
So practice. So P. What's P
P,
again? I was trying to write it
practice,
down. And you so fast,
practice
man.
prayer, practice prayer meditation. Practice prayer meditation. That's foundational for me and for many leaders I talk to, because I talk to purpose driven leaders who are operating under the assumption that they were created for a purpose, and
Amen.
there's a specific plan for their life, right?
Yes. Yes.
So foundationally, practice prayer meditation. There's so much documentation, so much research done on the benefits of
Yes.
prayer meditation that it's crazy.
Yeah. I was just talking to. I'm not sure if you watched it tonight, but Sylvia Nixon and Andrew Nixon. They are. They run a company called Press and Sew, and they do. They actually have a lot of creators underneath them in the context of like they create their apparel, all their
Mm-hmm.
merch and things like that. And so they're working with me to do some merch, but they are super duper spirit led. And
Mm-hmm.
last night we were talking a little bit about our strategy for Worthy Retail U. But before we got into the strategy, she had a word for me, and it was amazing because when I knew you and I were going to talk, and I do remember the first one was about practice prayer and meditation, but that was one of the first things she said to me last night. She said, Steve, you need to make sure, because things are going to start to move for you, and you need to practice more prayer and meditation. And I understand the context of that. I understand the importance of that. Can you give somebody maybe a simple, um, like, just something that they can do,
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow morning, when they wake
Mm-hmm.
up, right? Because also think, you and I agree with this too. I think the practice prayer meditation, it has to be consistent over time, but you got to start. And I
So,
think the problem is a lot of people don't know where to start. Can you give them something to where to start?
yeah, real simple, Steve. Real simple. It's not complicated at all. You wake up in the morning, uh, first thing before, and this is hard. First thing before touching that phone,
Mm,
check checking email and social media is express gratitude, right? Express gratitude. Simple prayer of gratitude. I'm, and this is, I'm coming from a particular faith
hmm.
in terms of being a Christian, but practicing prayer and meditation is really faith agnostic, if you will, because I know some
Correct.
people watching us are not all Christians, Steve.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you wake up in the morning before you do anything. Well, maybe deal with what you got to deal with first. Well, come come back. Biology. We got to deal with biology first,
But
Steve.
there we go. I like that one. Biology. I like that.
But before the day gets too hectic, before we get caught up in all we have to do for the day, the meetings that we have, particularly as leaders, we have stuff coming left, right, center. Center yourself.
Mm, mm, mm.
Center yourself, right? By simply to it. Oftentimes we think of somebody in the locust pose, saying for
Yeah,
3 hours.
like this, say like yeah,
Yeah,
like this, yeah,
no,
yeah.
it can be that.
Can be
It
that.
can be
It
that.
can be.
It does not have to be. It's simply you giving thanks to the creator, to
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
creator,
Mm-hmm.
for waking you up this morning. Simple.
Yeah.
I look at that as food. We can't go too long without food. That's our spiritual food, man.
Yeah, man.
And it centers us.
I agree, and I think that I love what you said about gratitude, right? If there's anything that you can start your day with, right?
Hmm.
It's not about things, right? It's not about asking for more things. It's about being
Hmm.
thankful for what you currently have, because what you currently have, as you spoke about with everything that happened and with the hurricanes and things like that, those things could be taken away from you so quickly, right? So quickly. And if you're not practicing gratitude, then the first thing, that's what you should be doing to begin with. And hold for a second, we have a couple people in the audience. We got a couple people in the audience.
Uh-oh.
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 You know this person? Who's this
I do
person?
know that
Who's this
person.
person trolling us?
That looks to be. I see a hey dad. It's
Yeah.
Caleb. So that's my 10-year old, my namesake that I
That's
was trained to be a boy, but I got a girl, but I love her, love her to
well
death.
well, and
Michaela.
I think we knew that my oldest is named Kayla too.
Okay.
Yeah, my
Okay.
oldest, my
Hey,
twin. Old, when I say
that's
oldest,
why.
my 28-year-old. Her name is Kayla. So
Got you.
dude. I mean, we just got too much in common. It's ridiculous.
It's
It's
ridiculous. It's
ridiculous.
ridiculous.
And
But hey,
then
baby,
here's this. Oh my goodness, this just warms my heart
that's wifey right
as I know it does yours.
That's wifey right there, man.
Oh man, oh man. Then you gotta take her back to Target.
For sure.
After all of this.
For sure.
out to dinner, out to dinner and everything as well. I, hey,
Oh, that
I
last one was Malia. That last one was
yes,
Malia. That's my
hmm
6-year-old.
yes, indeed. Well, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys watching. Your dad and your husband is awesome. Um, so we talked about P.
Lost track. We got caught up.
Oh
We
no,
lost.
man! You know how we go. That's our mo. You and I, and that's okay. But we always find our way back.
Uh-huh.
We talked about P, plan, practice, prayer, and meditation, and then
Yep.
L.
Yep.
Let's dive into L. What does L stand for?
L stands for lean in and listen for the lesson. And it's really two parts. So that lean in piece is, we got to lean into that adversity.
Mm,
I was saying that we should make adversity our advisor, not our adversary.
mm,
What does an advisor do? Right? They they provide you a roadmap. They give you guidance. We have to listen for that guidance. But before we jump into that piece, we have to actually lean into the adversity. So how do we do that, Steve? For those of us who are people of faith, we got to lean into our faith, lean into our God, uh, lean into our community, right? Let me tell you something.
mm,
I remember when I said in the beginning that, the way P.L.A.N came about was when I was thinking, I started thinking back to all the adversity I'd been through,
right.
and just thinking about how I actually dealt with that. I shared this with you before, Stephen, that I shot back to a time in my life where I had lost everything. Right.
Mm, mm,
I from the Caribbean. We hold the value of family in high regard. So, my sister was staying with me at the time, and everything crashed. I lost the house. I lost the marriage. I lost everything, and
mm,
I ended up sleeping on the twin mattress
mm,
that my sister slept on in the guest room of the house that I owned, with my former wife.
mm,
And I say that to say, Steve, you know, back at that time, it was like I was thankful, but I was not thankful enough,
mm,
because there were people that would, I went into a depression, of sorts, for a while, and people would come around, friends would come around, Steve, and say, Mike, let's go here, let's go there, come outside, man. And I'd be at home in my pajamas, man,
Mm.
in a low, and um, eventually I started opening up and leaning on those people that hold me dear and that I held dear as well. So leaning in is leaning into our faith, but it's also leaning into our community. Oftentimes when we go through struggles, um, particularly depending on your personality. I'm
Hmm.
inward and introspective anyway, being on the introvert side of the spectrum. So I go in, right, and I want to be and this across the board. We tend to go in within ourselves. We have to lean into that community,
Yeah.
right? So the listen for the lesson piece, um, I go back to saying what I said about allowing adversity to be our advisor, not our adversary. Right? There's a lesson. There's a lesson buried in every single struggle that we face, Steve. And that goes back to what I was saying about mindset in the beginning. It's really based on our perspective, and that's something that I had to learn. Some hard lessons on, but now thank God, because it's really transformative when you can look at a what can be described as a negative situation,
Hmm.
and see the quote unquote silver lining in that, knowing that God is always at work,
Yeah.
you know. So listen for the lesson. There's a lesson buried in every single adversity, every single struggle you face.
Excellent, man.
Excellent,
Excellent.
man.
I want
Excellent.
I want
I
to
want
talk a little
I
bit
want to talk a little bit
about
about
was that you?
was that you?
I think there's a
I'm
little
just
bounce
looking
back. Oh, there you go.
at. No, I'm good. I was just
Okay.
looking at the comments. Looks
Oh,
like
no
my
worries.
little boy is on too.
So Robert Spoke Audio says awesome advice, Michael. Awesome advice. And then we have Jackson Reese. Jackson Reese. Watching
That's
watching and listening intently. Do your thing, big
that's
bro.
that's my I call him my little big bro because he about 6'3", so he got some inches on me.
Yeah.
But he's Cynthia's baby boy. That's my little brother. Big up yourself, Maurice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys coming in and checking us out tonight. One of the
I
things,
told Steve, I
so go ahead.
told him, just in case nobody show up on this live, I need fam to represent. So
That's right. That's it. That's it.
appreciate
You got to. We got some good. No, we got some good people on here, man. We got a good audience. We always get a lot of people afterwards too that'll look at the video as well. One thing
yeah,
I wanted to talk about was that lesson piece that
yeah.
you were referring to, because I think you and I we have listened to John Maxwell a lot, as
Mm-hmm,
well as we've developed as leaders. And one of the
mm-hmm,
things that he's actually changed his mind about a little bit was around the idea of learning from other people's experiences, another
mm-hmm,
person's experience. And he says the key now is not to just learn from their experience, but to learn from their evaluated experiences,
mm-hmm.
meaning that it's not just a matter of like I've just gone through this, but the fact is you've been able to sit down potentially and work through the ebbs and the flows of that experience and maybe how it impacted you and others, and now you're able to share that he said is more important than just understanding how you've gone through that. Would you agree with that, or what are your thoughts on that idea of the evaluated experiences?
Absolutely. I totally agree. How could I disagree with John Maxwell?
Go disagree with John
The man.
Maxwell, I know, right?
No, couldn't do that. But no, I definitely agree in terms of having the distance to be able to evaluate the experiences. And I might be completely butchering John Maxwell's teaching and understanding of this thing, but
No,
um, my interpretation, in terms of going through something, having the distance from it to be able to look back at it,
that's it.
right? And evaluate that thing in terms of, and it can work two ways too. Having a distance from the event or the situation, to be able to evaluate, and that's when you can see the lesson. It's looking back in the rear view mirror.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
we might not be able to see it as we're going through it, but it's that looking back, which is how I got started on this trail to begin
right.
with. In terms of that looking back, and evaluating the situation. A quick word about
Go for it.
evaluation too. That's that in that example. That's over the long haul. But think about any stressful situation that y'all out there experience. You can, before you have that, after you have that stimulus, right? Instead of reacting quickly, how about pausing and evaluating
Mm,
that situation and then choosing a best way to cope with that situation, right?
mm.
As opposed to just going from stimulus to the immediate reaction, taking that pause, evaluating, and that's that allowing that's that LPs, that's the allowing that yourself to listen for the lesson,
Yeah,
and
agreed.
and then go forward.
Yeah, and that's a discipline, man, right? Because you because the tendency is that, especially if it was a bad experience, the tendency is that we want to forget about that thing and move forward quickly as possible. And a lot of times we jump into the wrong situation, just
Yeah,
to get out of that previous one, so that we can
hmm,
forget about it. So if we don't take that time, like you just said, to pause and really kind
yeah,
of understand where we are right now, and understand if we don't make any changes, or we don't evaluate it, we don't look at the lessons that we've learned until we move forward. If we don't do that, then we're bound to kind of repeat things as well.
absolutely,
all,
absolutely.
all right, so we talked about the P, we talked about the L. Let's talk about the A in your plan.
A is for act accordingly. So I say act. I always say faith without works is dead, right? Um, so you have to couple your faith with work. So with action. So I say based on what you, and this goes to that evaluation piece too. Based on what you heard and you learned when you leaned in and listened,
Mm,
right?
mm,
You act accordingly. You act accordingly. So, for example, uh, an example of my acting accordingly was, desperately wanting to uh, do something after the loss of my dad.
mm.
Searching, I want to do something. I want to help my island rebuild. I want to glorify my heavenly Father. I want to honor the memory of my earthly father. That's a VI accent coming on that father.
That's all
Father.
right. I understood. I got it. I got it. I'm from New York, so I got it.
Um, there you go. So I acted by leading that hurricane relief effort. It doesn't have to be that grandiose. Not that that was grandiose, but it doesn't have to be that big. Acting accordingly. Here's an example. Doing something good for somebody, a small act of kindness. Let me tell you something, Steve. So I
Yeah,
remember going
yeah.
through. I remember going through. When my first huge struggle hit during that time where I kind of lost everything, and I was on my back, Steve.
Mm.
A good buddy of mine that I met while I was in the Air Force, from the VI, big up Denzel. He came. He's one of
Washington,
them.
Washington. Not just joking.
Nah,
I'm just messing with you. I'm just making sure. I'm just making sure, man. I
I
I
think
did. I was like, yo, you didn't tell me you knew the Denzel. Come on, man.
not Lee Denzel, a different
Oh,
one, a different
okay.
one, a
Oh,
different.
okay. I'm just making sure. Just making
And
sure.
so he came by, and it was one of them days I didn't want to come out. I came out. He said, "Come, I need to go to the ADM. I need to go to the ATM." And we went to the ATM. I'm thinking, he getting our cash or whatever, and I always remind him of this story. We go to the ATM. He gets our cash, and he has me a few $100s.
Mm,
This was when I was dog dead broke, Steve.
yeah, man.
I don't know if you know what dog dead broke is, but I was broken and broke. As my mother would say, broken in 10 scouts. I don't know what that means, but anyway. Yeah, so it's small.
I gotta look
that's
that up. I'm writing that down and looking it up, man. Broken in 10 scouts.
that's that Antiguan stuff, man, because my parents from Antigua. Um, so yeah, it's those small acts of kindness. Steve, I know you know this, and folks out there, I know y'all know this too. In terms of, it's said that part of the healing process for you when you're going through is to actually do something for
Yes.
somebody else.
Yes.
You'll be surprised at how that uplifts you as you're going through. So that's acting accordingly. Listen, acting based on what you learn when you leaned in and listen for the lesson.
Man, I'm still stuck on that broken intent scouts. I gotta get past that. I gotta get past that. I gotta get past that. No, I'm just
Maybe,
messing around.
maybe there's some Caribbean folk that's watching that know what that one
Zach,
means.
yeah, if you are listening, please put that in the comments or something like that on now or on the replay, please. This last one is actually super important to both you and I, because I
Yes.
remember when we first connected, and we were talking about this one and kind of our practice with the N. And I won't. I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to let you introduce it. But I think we both feel that this one is super important. So what does the N stand for?
N stands for notate your mind state, which is really the importance and the benefit of journaling.
Mm,
And I know, a lot of guys, right, particularly of our hue,
that's
are not really into the journaling piece, Steve.
Yeah. Let's break it down. Go ahead.
But there's a ton of research out there that shows, just like research on the benefits of prayer meditation with regards to lowering your stress levels, decreasing your anxiety. These are the benefits of writing down your thoughts, writing down what you're going through, and uh, it allows you, Steve, to one, as you write, it's a cathartic process. You're writing
Mm,
down your thoughts. You're able to. That goes back to John Maxwell's, and maybe I'm adding on to his teaching, but that evaluation piece too,
yep.
because it allows you to say, well, oh, all right, I might not have experienced this exact same thing before, but I have gone through hell before,
Mm,
and
mm,
um, I'm touching myself. I'm still here. I'm still in the land of the living. I'm still here, right? So there's still hope. So it gives you hope, Steve, that knowing that what you went through before didn't kill you,
yeah.
you can get through this as well, right? So
Mm,
it really gives you hope. And reading your old entries, that's why it's beneficial to actually, write your thoughts. Reading your own entries, you look back and you say, oh, this was my mind state. Um, and I was able to get through that. I can get through this too.
yeah.
Journaling.
See, and this is all fitting together because, and I think I mentioned earlier that I talked to the Sylvia, the Nixons, not just Sylvia, but Andrew as well. And one of the
Mhm.
things that they this is that they said, Steve, you need to do a journal for your business. And I just started kind of like tearing up a little bit because as you and I have known that we have been writing and journaling for a big part of our lives. And I
Mhm.
think part of it for me was never like, I don't want to share some of this stuff with people because there are those moments in my life where, um, you know, broken intent scouts, and I don't want people to know about that. But I think she put it in the context of like, well, it's going to be healing, not just for yourself, but for other people. You don't got to put all of that stuff in there. But I use that example is to say, because it hit home for me when she said that to me about sharing some of the things that I have gone through. And I think to your point around journaling, I think the tendency a lot of times is that we don't want our innermost thoughts exposed, but they need to be exposed in order for us to find any measure of healing. And I know you and I, we talked a little bit about this too, around the context of like, not a lot of guys like us want to journal. We think it's a little soft, and we
Yeah.
think it's not cool. So just like you gave that quick step about P for, like, practice prayer and meditation.
Mhm.
Give somebody out there that may be struggling. They're like, okay, Michael, all right, so I got the P, I got the L. All right, I got the A. I'm digging that one, but dude, I ain't doing N, man. I'm not writing anything down. I'm not that dude. You know, I feel bad if I got to go in the store and like buy a journal. Like they're gonna think it's for me.
Uh-huh.
Give somebody a little piece of advice to where can they start? Where can they start?
Here's a great piece of advice. Utilize that device, that little device that you have because you're watching us, right? This thing right here. There are a ton of journaling apps. Okay, you use your phone for everything else. You're on IG, you're on LinkedIn, you're doing everything, right? Simply, download one of the journaling apps, and just like with prayer, it and meditation, it doesn't have to, be 6 hours or half a day or whatever you sit and in. Um, you make a quick note, and it doesn't have to actually. Here's another thing
Mm.
too, Steve. We're talking about dealing with stress and anxiety and so forth, but check it out. I,
Oh,
I journal good things too, man.
yes,
You know,
yes.
um, I journal the ups as well, and I use the app. There are several apps that you can use. Just I have an iPhone. You guys might be on the dark side, but anyway. I'm
Meaning
kidding,
Android,
y'all.
meaning
I'm
Android.
kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But just download the app, make a quick note to self, and it ties back into step one with prayer.
Yes.
Okay, you express, you just verbally expressed gratitude.
Mm.
Write that down. Write that, and I've said before, be thankful. Express thanksgiving for one thing when you wake up in the morning, and loop it back around to the journal by notating that. Notate your mind state.
Mm. Yeah.
So if you don't want to pen and paper, and that might be it to feel too much like you're writing in a diary.
Yeah.
Use an app. You're using your phone for everything else anyway.
Yeah, they can even they can even do a voice like a little voice recording, right? They can even like wake up or when the moment hits you, you can do a little voice recording too
Yep.
on your phone
On your phone.
as well. That's a form of journaling and notating your mind state as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. The app I use, you can download pictures, you can do voice notes, you can type however you want to do it, guys
Yeah,
and ladies.
yeah, and
Um,
ladies as well.
we're
So
talking to the guys because we know how the guys
I
are.
know, right? I know. So that was. I got two canned questions that I always ask, and I'm gonna. So the plan. This is the plan, people. Practice prayer and meditation. Lean in and listen for the lessons learned. Act
Mhm.
accordingly is A, and then N. Notate your mind state. Please,
Mhm.
if you didn't get anything out of tonight, make sure that if you have to fast forward or something like that, get to this part of our discussion because this plan is exactly what you need to use to implement and understand how you can be more resilient in your life consistently. Right? I think Michael always talks about being consistent with what you need to do. And this is not a one-time thing. You can't just go through this plan one day and act like everything's going to be fine. You have to kind of go through this and make this part of your life, make this part of your ethos as well. Two questions that I ask every guest, man. And I don't think I put this. I don't think I gave you these. And sometimes I give them to people, sometimes I don't. But you're gonna rock these out too. So
You
two
want to throw
questions.
me some curveballs,
Yeah,
though.
man. No, they thought these are like softballs actually. So, um, what is something? It could be last week, that 6 weeks ago, whatever it is. What's something that you were thinking about previously, but now over a period of time, as you have grown as a leader, what's something that you have changed your mind about recently?
Well, there's a couple of things, but I'll give you this one. And you alluded to it in the beginning in terms of leaders having to share more of themselves.
Mm,
For me, and I mentioned this before, I'm a proud introvert, right? So I'm on the internal side, right? And so this whole all of this, Steve, all of what I'm doing, it doesn't come natural to me in terms of what does come natural. I've always loved speaking and teaching. That's my
Hmm.
spiritual gift. I'm a teacher. But in terms of, being out here, exposing my, you know,
Yeah.
my inner self, all of that, it's tough, man. It's tough. But I tell you what, I'm on assignment, so it,
Yes. Yes.
I recognize I'm on assignment, so I had to change my mind about being vulnerable to the world,
Yeah.
because this is
Yeah.
being broadcast across the planet because you're just that big, Steve.
Yeah, man.
Uh, so I had to come to, and not had to, because I'm not talking past tense. I'm coming to grips with that in terms of just revealing more and more of myself, because
Yeah.
my peeps on the chat would tell you that this it doesn't come naturally to me. But again, I know I'm on assignment.
Yeah.
I talk to purpose driven leaders because I'm purpose driven myself, and it's bigger than me. There's
Yeah.
people watching that do stuff that need to hear this message,
Yes.
so that's what drives me. So that's why I changed my mind, exposing myself more, and there's
Excellent.
more to expose, but I have to reserve some.
Yeah, you got to keep something. You got to keep something. Well, I, honestly, dude, if anybody has looked at any of your stuff, I don't think they would see that as an issue for you, right? I mean, I've looked at a lot of a lot of your speech, and you send the stuff on IG and everything. You look supernatural in front of the camera, and I think that's because like you said, you're on assignment, and you're. It's not about you, right? It's about the message that you're sharing with people as well. And to that point, one of the things that leaders don't do, we don't a lot of times take enough time for ourselves. We don't uh pause, as you mentioned earlier. So one of the things, and I got this out of this book, Essentialism by Greg McEwen, and he talks about, and he asked this question, and it talks about what's important now. And I started to, kind of really honestly meditate on that phrase and that question last year. um, and I always ask people, whoever's on my show or just in general, different leaders, because we need to take time to pause and think about what's important. So I'm going to ask Michael K. Jackson, what's important now to you?
What's important now to me? Um, I would say it goes back to it goes back to core values,
Mm,
Steve, which is something I
mm,
talk about as well. And what's important to me right now is staying in alignment with my core values, and walking the talk, right? For me, it's faith, family, spiritual growth, love of learning, and impacting people. Those are five of my core values, right? And if I'm saying, and particularly us men, we're challenging this in this regard, in terms of wanting to make such an impact, right? On
yeah,
our community, on the world. But don't forget your family. That's your first ministry, is your family. I constantly have to remind myself, and so does my better half, in terms of keeping the main thing, right? So
yeah,
that's what's important to me. I went through a process of developing and getting acquainted with what my core values are.
mm,
What's important is staying true to those core values.
yeah. Oh man,
And I
agreed.
advise every leader to do so.
Oh, I do. You are speaking right in my wheelhouse, because we talk a lot about the more you know yourself, the more you can say no to certain things, because of your core values, and those core values dictate anything and everything almost that transpires in your life. So when something comes across your table that may seem good, but
Hmm.
it may not be the best for you, and your core values can help you kind of push some of that stuff away. Well, Michael K.
Hmm.
Jackson, dude, we just not that bad time. I was trying to keep it to an hour.
Okay.
I truly, truly appreciate you coming on tonight, man, and sharing with us, one, your story, about how you came to understand, and how you realized that resilience in your life was something so important that you needed to share it with other people. But then also out of that came a plan, came a process and a strategy for not just helping yourself, but helping other people who are struggling to understand how important resilience is in their life. Where can people connect with Michael K. Jackson?
Easiest place to go is my website, which is michaelkjackson.com. Real easy, real easy. michaelkjackson.com, and then from there you can link to all my social media accounts. I'm mostly active on LinkedIn. Just find me at Michael K Jackson there.
Excellent, man. Excellent. Well, stay in the green room, man. Here in a
Absolutely.
second, just want to chat a little bit. I want to thank everybody for listening and coming in tonight. Everybody who provided comments, whether it's going to be now or on a replay. Thank you so much for being here. And as we always say, have a great night and God bless.